All right, what's going on, my friends? Mike Walker here, back with you, and this is a brand new module for LaunchKit. We identified some areas in the marketing equation that we believed members were asking about. We were running some of our live calls, and a lot of questions came up in this area. So excited to connect with you on this one. Let's dive right in. There's a lot here. Probably want to take notes and be prepared to go through this more than once, I would say, depending on your exposure to this part of the marketing game. All right, let's get started right now. So this module is called Tech Stack and Ecosystem. We're going to dive into exactly what those are. We're going to clarify that and then get into how these things work together. All right, so here's what we're going to cover. Your marketing ecosystem, understanding the concept of a tech stack, the MVD system, and key takeaways that you can then deploy into your business starting today. So this is a good quote. Embracing technology isn't just an option anymore. It's the heartbeat of modern marketing. You really do need to wrap your head around SaaS, service as a software. There's so many platforms, there's different tools. That doesn't mean that you need to use all of them. And in fact, we're going to really simplify things. We're going to keep things very easy to understand, very straightforward. And I'm even going to give you some tips. And like I said, some key takeaways that you can use so that you don't get stuck in the weeds in some of this stuff. Because again, depending on your desire to get your hands dirty with all the different components of a marketing funnel and everything that's involved there, you may or may not want to go too deep, if you will. So we're going to keep things simple, high level, but also give you a very clear idea of what it looks like to do this correctly. All right, so my caution here, again, is just to be careful that you don't get stuck in the weeds, and more specifically, what we call shiny object syndrome. There's so many cool tools and features out there. There's tons of new platforms coming out all the time, and they're great, right? And so our tendency as entrepreneurs, we typically are creative brained. We're always looking for the next thing that will help develop our business further and bring it to the market even better, magnify our message in the marketplace, etc., which is all good things. But here's the thing. It's very easy to confuse activity in this area for productivity. Activity being setting up a new system, connecting it to another system, and getting your spreadsheets fully dialed in and making sure the colors and the fonts are just right and this and that, right? Look, these are fine, but at the end of the day, they're not going to truly move the needle for you in any definitive way, at least in the immediate short term, right? So just remember, your number one KPI, like we've already talked about in this program, the number one metric in your business when you're first getting started in particular is how many times per day are you communicating with somebody that can either say yes or no to your offer. That's it. That's the number one metric. Do not confuse any other activity for being better than that, which is just talking with people that can say yes or no to your offer. That's the number one game. Validating your offer in the marketplace, really refining your messaging, getting confident and comfortable talking to strangers, converting them from strangers to interest, from interest to raving fans, right? There's a lot going on there. All of that is the heartbeat of your business, but the mechanics and the tech behind it is what's going to allow you to scale. It's going to allow you to grow and systematize things as you continue to develop your business further. So yes, all this stuff that we're going to cover today is important, but do not confuse it for being paramount above simply just talking to people, getting out there and mixing it up and learning about your marketplace and identifying your ICP. All right. So let's talk about your marketing ecosystem. It really consists of, again, very simple, broad, high level view here. It's going to consist of 4 pieces: your personal brand, your message, your product or service, and the client experience. All 4 of these are part of the marketing ecosystem. Now, I want to draw your attention to the 4th one there, client experience. How is it that a client experience who's already paid us money, how is that part of marketing? I will tell you, because you want a flywheel effect. You have to understand that the client experience is going to draw out more referrals, people talking about you in the business, in the marketplace, and all these things, right? So identifying and understanding that the client experience is just as much of an opportunity to market to your people and to your audience as any other time. In fact, I'd go as far as to say it's probably the best time, because they've already committed to spending money with you, right? So why not wow them? Why not continue to market to them? A mistake I see often in the business development space is you kind of have this siloed mentality where it's like, okay, we have our sales and lead gen, and then once they're customers, okay, now it's over on support side and they have to go deal with them from then on. And then they never hear from that person again, right? So you really want to understand that this person came into your environment because they wanted to work with you, or because they built a relationship with whoever, sold them into the service, which if you're a solo operator or a small team, it's probably you, but eventually it's not. Eventually it's probably gonna be somebody else. And you need to understand that just because someone spends money with you doesn't mean that you stop marketing. You're always marketing to people. You're always, reaffirming why they spent money with you. Why are they committing their time, effort, and energy into your product or service, right? So marketing never stops. I just want to make sure that that was clear. Now, how we do this in a simple and optimized way is to use tech. Okay, and tech can be any matter of platforms. We're going to go into multiple of them here in this training video. So you'll just see that all these things link together through tech. All right, so again, very simplistic view of the marketplace. You have your cold audience, right? The total addressable market, what we call your TAM. All right. Within the TAM, though, is a smaller subset, and they are your warm traffic. Those are people that have been touched by your message in some way. They're obviously engaged with you in some manner. And then those people you draw out and create a smaller group of aware, active, and engaged people. Okay, so they're no longer just aware of you. Now they're actually engaged. They're moving forward in the process. You've given them things to do. They've purchased small front-end products from you, whatever it may be. They're interacting with a group, whatever. Then from there, they're going to move over obviously into client, right? So you can kind of see how this works. You start with a very broad audience. It's going to get narrowed down by your messaging, your personal branding, and all that. Those are going to move over into your active, aware, and engaged crowd. And then from there, you're going to draw out clients and build the relationship further. All right. Now you can see how this kind of works together, right? Your personal brand is going to touch the entire market, regardless of whether you're a company facing organization or if you're a personal brand facing. Either way, it's your personal brand, your face. You are a part of the business. Okay. People say, "Oh, I'm B2C or I'm B2B." No. It's H to H. It's human to human, no matter what. Okay, the business of business is relationships, and those relationships are formed with humans. And so you need to have some level of personal branding in play, because people often want to know who's behind the brand that I'm buying things from. Not always. Obviously, there's variance there, but it is important to understand that your personal brand is going to touch the cold, broad market. From there, people are going to be attracted to that enough to want to know what is it that you're talking about, what is it that you stand for, what is it that you're bringing to the marketplace. They become your warm market. Those people can be generated into leads. We'll talk about how that's done here very technically. And then again, they're going to move over into your product or service, more engaged, probably some kind of community or front end product. And from there, you can draw them over into a client for your flagship program. Okay. And then again, at that point, you're in the client experience environment where you're really going to want to consider, what does marketing look like for an active client? Okay. So don't just stop at the sale, continue the journey forward through that sale and all the way around, and generate more referrals for your business. Now, we already talked about this. These are just very quick snapshots of like some banners and things. Again, my entire intent of showing you these is just to make sure that regardless of what platform you're on, that you have a very consistent, cohesive look and feel across all the different platforms that you're on. Okay, you wouldn't show up to a business interview with scuffled hair and like your tie all wrinkled and your shirt halfway tucked in, right? Like you wouldn't do that. Well, you don't want to show up to the marketplace without looking sharp as well. Okay, and that doesn't mean you have to be wearing a tie or anything. Obviously, in my case, you see that I'm definitely not wearing a tie. So you know what I'm saying here, right? I don't need to go into it too further than that, but I just want to make sure that if you have something out in the interwebs, right, make sure it looks good. It represents your business. Now, how many people are going to see that or not, who knows, right? Like that kind of depends on what you're doing. But at the end of the day, don't have something out in the marketplace that doesn't look like how you'd want to be presented in the marketplace. You just don't need to be showing up like that. All right, now let's talk about that colder market. We talked about that really broad TAM, right? Typically, these are gonna be touched through those social channels, YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram, et cetera, right? These are all great places, very broad touching. You can reach a very vast piece of the market just with one of these platforms. Now, a couple things I wanna lean in on here. Number one, you do not need all of these, especially when you're first starting out. I'm telling you not to have all of them. Go ahead and, get your platform, reserve your name, make sure that you protect your IP and you get your namesake in these channels and your brand or whatever, right? Like go ahead and do that. That's fine. But what I'm saying here is I don't want you to diffuse your time and attention across tons of different platforms all at once. People I see all the time, they're like, oh, I need to have all my social channels firing on all cylinders. Unless you have a VA or a team running that for you, this can be very difficult to create any kind of meaningful impact across multiple channels all at the same time. Now there's some complementary ones where you could say, okay, well, if you want to do YouTube vlogs, for example, you could take that same amount of content, chop it down into clips, and then take those clips and post over on Instagram. Or you could take long form content on Facebook, chop it up a little bit and drop some LinkedIn posts, things like that, right? So, I mean, there are some crossovers here to be sure, but just make sure that whatever you do, that you understand that you don't need to try and conquer all these mountains all at the same time. I'd strongly encourage you to stick with one or two when you're first getting started in the content space that you're most comfortable and want to be most consistent in, most importantly, right? We talk about this in another video. So just make sure that whatever platforms you're on, that you stay consistent. Consistency will always win over just being across all of them and barely doing anything, okay? The second point I want to highlight here is you'll notice all these platforms, they're what we would consider rented audiences. Think about it. YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram, any one of these platforms technically is not yours. They may be your followers, but at the end of the day, you have no ability to necessarily own that list. It's unfortunately any one of those platforms could essentially turn you off, and therefore you don't want to have your entire business dependent on any one of these channels as your primary source of communication, because naturally you don't own that list. Okay, it's a rented list. Now, what we do use though is these platforms to draw the attention. Think of it like a wide net that we're casting out into the ocean, right? We're going to cast a really wide net, knowing that only some of that attention that we garner are going to be generating more of an engaged audience, a warmer audience. So this would be where we draw attention from YouTube and Instagram and whatever. We're pulling them over and we're inviting them to our podcast or radios, shows, speaking and live events, online, offline, or in person. Book, or maybe we're promoting a book or any kind of print media that we have, partnerships and JVs, email lists and blogs, et cetera, right? These are more engaged. These are warmer audiences that are on some level interested in whatever it is you're saying. Okay, so they're not only in your TAM, but they're actually within your ICP. They're interested to know more about what it is that you're doing. And again, do you need all of these going at the same time? Absolutely not. That'd be extremely difficult for almost anybody, okay? So pick one or two at the most that you really want to lean in on and use the cold audience attraction methods to draw them over into your warmer audience methods, all right? And then from there, we're drawing them over into lead collection. This is where we need a CRM. We'll talk about what that is in a minute. But lead collection would typically be a landing page of some type. Maybe you're offering, something of value, a downloadable ebook, a downloadable resource, a free group or event, or something that's going to draw people in to want to give you their email and contact information. At that point, you now have an owned list, right? So we're using the rented lists, the things that we don't necessarily have direct control over, and we're drawing them through and bringing them over to the point where we actually own them on our list. They are part of our owned community, all right? From there, again, we can use our demonstration assets, VSLs, ebooks, resources, events, things like that, to demonstrate our value. So not only are they a lead in our system, but now they are being presented with some kind of value proposition from our side. Be like, hey, look, this is what I'm about. This is what we do. This is how we can help you. Did you know? Here, let me give you some more value, some facts, etc. You're building the relationship. You're presenting your value proposition into the marketplace. From there, you'll draw them even further. You'll get them into a community or group. You could even sell them some front-end products of some type. Again, it's some sort of a downloadable tool or guide or resource, mini course, things like that, and even paid events, things like that. Typically, your active audiences are going to be places where they've paid you some form of money. It doesn't always have to be. It could be a free community as well. But generally, the idea here is we're trying to get people into an environment where they've not only raised their hand saying that they're interested by opting into your demonstration, platform, but they're now engaged with you monetarily on some level, even if it's for $1. All right, that's great. You want a big pool of people in this aware and active environment. This is where you want to build this pool of people. We'll talk about that in a minute. And looks just like this, where you're trying to build this pool. You're drawing from the cold and warmer audiences, drawing them through and trying to build a big pool of active, aware, and engaged people. All right. From there, we get them onto your calendar, get them onto your lead tracker. And now you're actually in the process of moving them from just being aware and active with you on some, small level and moving them over into your actual flagship offer. So it's very much of a filtering system. You'll notice you start very, very broad and it filters down narrower and narrower into your actual flagship offer where they become a buyer At that point, again, remember, just because they're a buyer doesn't mean you stop the marketing. It's just a different style of marketing at that point. All right, now let's talk about the tech stack that connects all the dots here. Understand the concept of a tech stack. A tech stack refers to the collection of software, tools, and technologies that work together to power your business operations. Think of it as a set of building blocks, each serving a specific purpose. All right, so each of these blocks has an important element that it pulls for you, that it drives your business forward. Selecting the right tech stack is crucial because it directly impacts how efficiently your business operates. A well-chosen tech stack can streamline tasks, enhance collaboration, and improve customer experiences. On the other hand, a mismatch or complex stack, let me highlight that, complex stack, can lead to confusion, inefficiencies, and unnecessary costs. Making informed decisions about your tech stack ensures that your business operates smoothly and adapts effectively to your needs and growth. And that's what I'm going to dive into as well here, because it's very, very easy. I see this all the time, guys. They're in, the entrepreneurs come on board. We're launching a new offer. We're launching a new business. I got to get this stack. I got to get this. I got to get that. I need all these different tools and I got to connect them all. You'll spend hours. You'll spend days. You can spend weeks building out these ultra elaborate automation systems and all these cool features, which is all cool. And yet I could crush the competition by just simply picking up the phone and start reaching out to people, okay, without any tech. So do not confuse tech for money. Okay, tech is supposed to help you make more money, but you need to be doing keep the main thing, which is communicate with the marketplace. So you may have heard about this, phrase, minimal viable product. This is a really important thing to understand, and it comes from the engineering space. And basically, what it means is getting something new into the market, just getting it out in its most minimal viable option, like just getting out there to test the marketplace. 3 key features of minimal viable products. It has enough value that people are willing to use or buy it. It demonstrates enough future benefit to retain early adopters. And thirdly, it provides a feedback loop to guide future development. So this is where you've got a new product, you've got a new service, and we talked about this in LaunchKit already, where look, it's going to iterate over time. It's going to refine, it's going to evolve, right? So you're really just looking to get the first offer out. You don't want to, go perfection and try to just nail it out 100% on day one. You have to be willing to get out there and let it evolve over time, but also bring something to the market that's good enough where you're going to get the results that you're looking for in the earlier ons, right? Well, here's the thing. Minimal viable product is the exact same way we want to treat our content, our tech, and everything that we're doing, right? So minimal viable delivery system, right? When you're first getting started, you do not need every ounce of tech to get it going. Like I've already talked about multiple times. I think you're probably noticing a general theme here, right? So we call this the MVD system. This is just the bare bones, exactly what you need to get the most important critical components of a lead gen system put together. These characteristics are efficient, does what you need it to do simply and effectively. Okay, there's gonna be tons of really cool bells and whistles out there, but unless you absolutely need it, don't worry about it for now, okay? Cost flexible. It fits in your budget now and has the ability to scale on demand. This is an important one. Some platforms out there are quite expensive, and that can be very prohibitive up front. And you don't need, the ability to send messages to 200,000 people all today, right? Like you just don't have that list. So why would you be paying for it? On the flip side of that, be careful that you don't back yourself in a corner by getting something that, might work right now, but it won't allow you to grow or scale later. Be pretty tough to do that, but you just want to be aware of the fact that, look, yes, be cost sensitive, but have an eye on where you're going to, and make sure that you don't get yourself stuck somewhere into a platform that you then have to migrate out of into something else. Migrating SaaS, migrating lists and contacts and tags and all these things can be very time intensive and just not very fun, to be honest. So just be aware of, think down the road a little bit in terms of what you need and that type of stuff. And then of course, reliable, proven and commonly used. Again, there are tons of awesome stuff coming out all the time. Very easy to get shiny object syndrome on this. Just be very wary. And again, just stick with what you absolutely need for now, and only bring on a new piece of SaaS or any kind of new technology. Only bring it on when you absolutely need it and when it's solving a very specific, clearly defined problem or issue in your business. Okay, you only introduce tech to eliminate friction in the customer journey or in the internal operations of your business. Okay. Don't just add it to add it, or add it because you know some other companies use it. You must have a very clearly defined reason. You must be able to clearly articulate, I'm going to adopt this technology because it's going to allow me to do X, Y, and Z, which will produce X result. Okay, you need to have a very clear idea of what it is that you're trying to accomplish before introducing new tech into your business. So again, we've already looked at this, right? This is your aware, active, and engaged audience. This is that pool of people we're trying to build, because over time, it takes time, right? It takes time to develop the know, like, and trust factor. It takes time to get people to build that trust and to know you enough to be ready to go, you know what? Here, I want to invest my money into what it is that you're offering. I believe in you. I've seen you around long enough. You've had that consistency in my life, in my threads, in my email inbox, right? You keep showing up consistently and well. I'm ready to move on to the next step in the relationship. Well, you need to build a big pool of people that keeps them in that ecosystem. You know, that's why groups are such a great place to do that. That's why front-end products are such a good way to nurture that relationship and the trust factor. Why events in particular are so powerful, because you get people in a room, you have that, proximity to the energy. There's just so many elements here, and you need a calendar to book calls, get them on calls, all the things, right? So we're trying to build this pool of people, and we do that using a few different pieces of tech. Number one, we need to be able to collect those leads up front. Somehow, some way, we need to be able to collect people's name, email, phone numbers, primarily those, right? That's the key to the vault. That everything starts there. So we need a CRM, a customer relations management system. Now, there are many out there, okay? Many, many, many. By no means is this an extensive list at all, but I'm only gonna list the things that I've personally used extensively myself, okay? So ActiveCampaign, very user-friendly, quite cost-effective, and pretty easy to get going when you're first starting out. You don't need some obscenely huge list to make it justifiable to invest in this SaaS. I would highly encourage ActiveCampaign if you don't have any CRM yet and you're just getting started. That's probably the better way to go. HubSpot is what we use here at The Wealthy Consultant. It's enterprise quality. It will allow us to infinitely scale. It allows for dozens and dozens, even hundreds of team members. There's no real scale issue at all with HubSpot. ActiveCampaign, I'd say basically the same, but HubSpot's far more robust. It's also a lot more expensive. So you're going to want to consider that depending on what your long-term objectives are, what your ability to afford the different pieces of the puzzle are, okay? Second, you'll need a demonstration platform. Again, this could be a wide range of things. ClickFunnels, Go High Level. These are marketing funnel builders, drag and drop, very user-friendly. WordPress, of course, for your website, or Squarespace or Wix. There's different podcast platforms. There's so many, right? But the point is, you need to be able to demonstrate your intellectual property, your product, your service, the results that you're able to bring to the marketplace. You need somewhere to host that information. So that's what you're going to need. Thirdly, some kind of community is typically good in almost all cases. There's very few instances where I haven't found this to be effective. Obviously, Facebook groups are great, but again, remember, that's a rented group. You don't own the Facebook group, okay? That might be your group and it's cool and private and got a lot of cool stuff in there, but at the end of the day, unfortunately, Zuckerberg could decide one day that, hey, Facebook groups are no longer the jam and we're not facilitating anymore, and then poof, there's your community, right? So you gotta be careful of that. It's a great place. We have one, obviously, here at The Wealthy Consultant. It's certainly worthy of doing, but just be aware that you don't want to hinge your customer experience or your company's success on a Facebook group. I've seen so many people go down that way, where they've built an entire business around their different Facebook groups, and it's just a very shaky area. You'd want to be careful of that. So naturally, using more of a paid platform like Circle or School, there's several others out there, but again, just talking to the ones I've personally used myself. Circle, of course, being the one that we use here at The Wealthy Consultant, and from what I've seen is pretty much my favorite. I really like how they do everything, and they continue to develop new features, and I think you'd find it to be pretty user-friendly. Inside of MDC, we actually provide done for you tech support in this area, where we'll actually come in and build your circle for you. So that's kind of a cool feature for MDC students, but it is pretty user-friendly, drag and drop style, and intuitive. So most people would find it pretty easy to use. a calendar. You need some ability to get people, from an email or from a post or whatever onto your calendar, scheduling a time and date with you that you, have available to get on the phone and start communicating. This is an essential tool. You absolutely must have one. Calendly is very cheap, easy to use. It's even free in some cases. And then Schedule Once, and again, there's many more. HubSpot, for example, has a built-in calendar feature as well. It just depends on what CRM you're using and what other SaaS you got going on. Go High Level, I believe, has built-in calendar software as well. So again, plenty of options, but it's a must-have. You must have that ability. And then lead tracking, obviously pretty simple. Your CRM is going to do that. You can develop lead scoring in there, tagging, so you can segment your list, all kinds of things. But you can also just use it very simply with a lead tracking Google Sheet. The ability to know who these people are, where they came from, what's their contact information, and what was the last interaction they've had with you. That's, at the end of the day, that's what you need to track. Those are the KPIs. And then lastly, payment processing. Naturally, you got to be able to collect money, right? Inside of LaunchKit, we actually have a module dedicated to one of our providers that will provide credit card processing for you at a really great rate. And it's nice to have like direct contact with humans that you can talk to about your business and make sure that they get you set up, completely and dialed in. But there's also, of course, just third-party SaaS like Stripe and PayPal, to just name a few. And those work more than well. And they usually integrate with almost all of the SaaS platforms that we've already discussed here. All right. So essential functions. You need to be able to track names, emails, and phone numbers. That's your CRM. You need to be able to collect leads, demonstrate message and value. That's going to be your website or your funnel. You need to be able to schedule calls, so you need some kind of a calendar, and you need to be able to collect payments, so you need a processor. That's it. These are the essential functions. This is your MBD system. Are there other things you can do, chat bots and this and that and all the cool things? Of course. But at the end of the day, this is like brass tacks, what you need to make money in the marketplace. So next steps, like I said, keep it simple, guys. Like, do not overcomplicate this. Do not spend days and days building out stuff. If this isn't what you do on a regular basis, if you're not familiar with a particular platform, I would highly encourage you to consider outsourcing the work. Upwork is a great resource for contractors in this area. There's no shortage of people. Obviously, vet carefully and be smart about who you introduce to your business in terms of being a contractor. But there's some really great people out there that will speed things up so fast for you and get it done 10 times better. So when in doubt, consider outsourcing, and then don't get stuck in the weeds. Like, if you do get stuck or if you're having problems, drop a comment in the group. Let us guide you a little bit. We'll make sure that we get you pointed in the right direction. There's no excuse to get stuck. If you're getting frustrated, if something is broken, it's not working, you can't figure out how to connect something, do not hesitate. Drop it in a post in the group, and we'll make sure that we somehow, some way get you out of the weeds. All right. That's what we're here for. And then lastly, recommended tech stack vendors. So there's a list here. Again, this is by no means the all-inclusive, everything out there list, but these are the ones that are really primary to operating a business with direct links. You can check them out, decide which ones make sense for you at the moment, and you'll be off to the races. All right. Awesome, guys. Great to have you join us on this one. Hopefully this helps. I would love to get your feedback. Let us know what you think, and drop comments in the thread. We'll see you on the live calls, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care.